What is going on, dudes? This is VaporTheGamer, and welcome back to another episode of Vapor Reacts. So we have yet another Five Nights at Freddy's game theory we're gonna check out today. So a lot of people probably still think that we have solved the true identity of the crying child, but no! We have not. According to Reddit, we have some new information that may have solved the identity of Mr. Crying Man. So I'm not gonna waste any of your time. Everything will be in the link in the description down below so you can check everything out for yourself. Obviously, along with the Game Theorists channel, please go subscribe to check out all the other game theories. Also, if you want your comment pinned at the top of this video, there's going to be another hidden VaporTheGamer logo that you're gonna have to find, and then you have to post the timestamp of where it is in a comment, and you'll get pinned. I'm gonna be doing that on every video from now on. There was also one from yesterday. Nobody found it. Y'all gonna have to look harder. So I'm just gonna click play on this bad boy. In 3, 2, 1, boom.
Jake?
Yep.
Jake?
Yes.
Can you hear me, Jake?
I can.
What did you do today, Jake?
Recording videos.
We watched a scary one. It was so scary that I jumped out of my seat and spilled my popcorn everywhere.
Wow.
Did you do that, Jake?
No.
Were you there?
I was
Jake.
not.
Then I went to the arcade. I ate a bunch of pizza there. I got red tomato sauce all over my mouth and more red on my clothes. There were so many other kids there, and then there weren't. I love you, Jake. You know that, right? I love you. Open the cabinet, Jake. Come over here. Open the cabinet, Jake. Open it. Open it. Open it. Open the cabinet, Jake.
Don't open the cabinet. I will not.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Game Theory, where today the theory is coming from you. That's right.
From
Just
me.
because we're all still waiting
Because
for
my name's
Security
Jake.
Breach to release doesn't mean that FNAF theorists out there have been twiddling their thumbs. In fact, the lack of a new game has prompted the community to go back and comb over all the pieces that were in place for us before. Pieces that we might have overlooked or missed the first time out. And it was
Mr.
this
Crying
thorough
thing.
re-review of the clues that prompted what may be the biggest fan theory to blow up in over a year.
For real.
That's saying a lot, since 2020 was full of us connecting massive pieces of this franchise's lore. I mean, with the help of Fazbear Frights, throughout last year's videos, we managed to pinpoint the year of the missing children's incident as 1985.
Yep.
We solidly
Good old
connected
Ozzy.
Foxy Bro to Michael Afton. We even concluded the high likelihood that 2 spirits are trapped inside Golden Freddy, not just one. Our
Yeah.
vengeful spirit Cassidy, as well as our Bite of 83 victim, the Crying Child.
Which we thought
But
was
Have you
Jake.
ever noticed that
Did we
kid
not?
doesn't have a name? I mean, it's been 6 years since he was introduced into the franchise in FNAF 4,
Damn,
and we
6.
still don't have any hints as to what Crying Child's name might actually be when he's, you know, experiencing literally any other emotion. Wait, is that Crying Child? But no, that's
It's
Happy
Happy Child.
And that's Angry Child, and that's Confused Child, and that's Apathetic Child. That is Passionate Child. Oops, no, not that
Apathetic.
one. Ooh, is that Emotionally Repressed Child? Hashtag relatable there. But really, take a moment to think
Oh
about
my
that.
God.
We know the puppet's name, Charlie, and her
Yeah.
father, Henry.
Yes.
We know that baby was originally Elizabeth Afton.
Yes.
Purple guy / Springtrap is William Afton.
Uh-huh.
Other purple guy is Michael Afton.
Yes.
There's the missing children's incident victims, Jeremy, Fritz, Susie, Gabriel, and Cassidy, the vengeful spirit, who is at least one of the things trapped inside Golden Freddy. I
Right.
mean, there is a name for pretty much every single
Very
character
true.
in this franchise, except for this one kid. The one kid who, wouldn't you know, was also important enough to have the first on-screen death of the series. Feels like we should probably be able to solve this one by now, right? Like, we should probably have gotten a name for him somewhere
It's gonna be
along the line,
huge
or at the very
when-
least,
when the
means
reveal
by which to
is
solve for his name.
to
the
be shown.
pieces have got to be in place for us, right? Well, today might just be the day where we solve
feel
exactly
like we shouldn't
that.
delve into
One
this,
Freddy
but I'm
user
excited.
named Wolfie1740 Kingdom thinks that they've cracked the code to finally solve the final name of the FNAF mystery, to finally give the crying child, the Bite of 83 victim, a proper identity. So break
45
out your
pounds.
tambourines,
Yeah, it's this
theorists,
little
'cause
child.
it's Morty time. It's a theory review.
Leave your theories in the comments below. I'll pick my favorites in the next episode of Morty.
Now, today's theory starts.
I hope
where
PewDiePie
all
knows
the
about
best
this,
Theories begin
'cause that was good.
Chica. That's right, folks. We're back to the most important lore item in the whole franchise. Not any of the
Dabbing
novels.
Chica.
Certainly not the games. Those are just
Survival guide,
afterthoughts at this
obviously.
point. Nope, it's back to the children's activity book, FNAF Survival Logbook. In a
Yeah.
past FNAF theory, we had a huge revelation about how this thing works. Basically, there are 3 people present within this book. There's Mike, who's alive and always writes everything in red pen. There's Cassidy, who haunts the book and and speaks in ghostly faded text, but there's a second spirit here, the crying child, who's forced to communicate by actually altering the words that are found in the book. The example that proves it is right here. Cassidy says, "The party was for you," and the crying child responds on page 89 by altering the text of the book to read, "It was for me." We know FNAF 4's party wasn't for Mike, and we know Cassidy wouldn't be saying this to themselves.
It was his
Such,
party.
It must be crying child acknowledging what Cassidy has said. Same thing here on page 59 with Cassidy asking, "What do you see?" and crying child answering on page 109, "I can't see." Again, altering the actual print of the logbook. So that alone was pretty huge, and it went a long way to supporting the theory that both Cassidy and crying child possess Golden Freddy. And that alone would be pretty awesome, but it still leaves a major part of this book unsolved. You see, on page 95, there's a loose thread that's never been tied up, one that has personally driven me crazy for years. It's a grid where you're told to draw an 8-bit Foxy. Just another random activity in this children's workbook, right? Wrong. The grid is numbered, and you can see in faint print that you're supposed to put letters into the squares, with the first few already being put in. So in our quest to solve Golden Freddy's name years ago, we collected the page numbers where the phrase "my name" appeared, we added them together per the instructions hidden in the book, and then we plugged those coordinates into the Foxy alphabet grid to get the name Cassidy. Good game, everyone! Let's all treat ourselves to some orange slices and give ourselves a pat on the back for solving another piece of the lore. Except, that's not how it worked. You can imagine my surprise and confusion when the numbers got plugged into not the alphabet grid that was clearly being telegraphed to us, but rather the word search. And apparently we were right to do that, since Scott Cawthon himself confirmed in his FNAF movie announcement the critical role that a child named Cassidy plays within the lore. But all of this still means one thing. The alphabet grid is awkwardly left completely unused, despite it obviously needing to be used to solve one of the mysteries within this book. And that's where Wolfie 1740 stepped in. In the book, there's one Cassidy question that's left hanging. On page 31, Cassidy asks, "Do you remember your name?" Of course he does. He's the crying child. Crying child.
What's his name? Crying child
victim for short. Just rolls off the tongue.
Oh, come on.
To solve for Cassidy's
that was
name,
great.
Wolfie suspected that it might also be helpful in solving this other name, using, you guessed it, the Foxy alphabet grid. What Wolfie noticed was that the crying child specifically uses the night's 4 and 5 shift rating questionnaires to speak with Cassidy. For the first 3 nights, the section reads as follows: overall, fulfillment, health, stress, purpose, hope, and existential dread. But on nights 4 and 5, you have other things mixed in here, like "I'm scared," and "it was for me." So Wolfie reverse engineered things, taking bite victims' answers and matching them to the page numbers where Cassidy asks the question. To quote from Wolfie's own post, the first one is "I can hear sounds." The page it's responding to is 75, which says, "Does he still talk to you?" And one trend to notice is that all 4 pages have a piece of blood on it. Next is "It was for me," which is responding to page 103's question of "The party was for you." Third is "I can't see," responding to page 59's "What do you see?" And last is "I'm scared," which stumped me, so I went off of what I already had. End quote. He then fully filled out the Foxy chart with the alphabet, and going in the order that bite victims' answers appear, he followed the grid code to find the following 4 letters: E-V-A-N. Evan. After 6 years, could it possibly be that Evan is the name of the crying child? I'm not sure. Or at least I'm not convinced off of this
just
alone.
a theory.
Don't get me wrong, I don't think that this is a bad theory at all. Quite the contrary, in fact. Anything that tries to figure out the true purpose of that stupid Foxy grid is gonna get credit in my book. The problem here is the methodology. Throughout the book, Cassidy asks a lot of questions, but only 4 of them actually matter. Wolfie also points out the bloodstains, but there are bloodstains on a lot of the pages throughout this book, not just those 4. And even then, an answer like "I can hear sounds" to the question of "Does he still talk to you?" it feels just a bit off. It's not very precise. You know, it feels random, arbitrarily trying to fit pieces together in a book that has been crafted to be anything but arbitrary. I mean, the Cassidy code alone required you to find 6 numbers, find a page that points to another page on what to do with those 6 numbers, and then translate all 6 of them into the word search. Multi-step puzzles like this have to be precise in order to work. And while the puzzle pieces in Wolfie's theory certainly fit, they fit a bit loosely, you know? I mean, even Wolfie admits that finding the last N was a bit of a stretch, and it forced him to break his own methodology. In fact, another Reddit user, Godzilla813105, tried to correct for that to find the N in a different way. One of the other lingering threads of the book is a series of tally marks written by Mike that never quite add up to anything. They're never used, or at least their true use has never been discovered, but again, similar to the Foxy grid, they must mean something, right? To quote
is this a waste of time?
Post, I realize that there's a magazine Foxy is holding on the first page of night 1 that has 5-3 on it. When you add 5 and 3, you get 8. Then I took every single tally mark set in the book and added them together. I got this from the idea of how the whole quiz thing at the end of the shift says tally up your score. Putting all of these together gets you 47. 4-7 on the Foxy grid gives you the letter N, end quote. Again, it sounds good on paper, and I love the attempt to make sense of it all, but the why of it just doesn't line up for me. Why add tally marks to this number on Foxy's magazine? How are those elements related? And why would they be connected to a completely different set of 3 numbers gotten from a completely different set of clues? Plus, the story just doesn't hold. Contrary to what Godzilla says in their post,
he's just trying to debunk this theory in general.
Nightly surveys. Thus, the rationale just doesn't hold up. In short,
just
it all feels like we're convinced that we have a solution to the problem, and we're trying to back our way into how to get there. This is classic confirmation bias, where, as you conduct research, you try and find sources to justify your belief, or you retrofit the data to fit the conclusion that you're looking for. And I should know about confirmation bias, because lots of our theories over the years play with that very concept. Mario is a villain, provided you ignore all the times that he saves the kingdom. You play as the king in Hollow Knight, as long as you squint really hard during this one cutscene that might disprove that. For me, theories like those are all about telling a story, connecting dots that definitely exist within a game that flip your understanding of the plot, but also sometimes go against what is much more likely and probably much more intended by the developer. And the theories that I tend to focus on are the ones where you can connect a surprising number of dots, even if 1 or 2 tend to disprove it. They're just meant to be fun thought experiments, you know?
Why does game lore get me moving? Gets my blood,
but here
my
with
juices
FNAF,
flowing.
you have to be really careful. While I love both of these posts, FNAF theories tend to be about trying to solve things, speaking things into the generally accepted canon, and as a result, the methods by which we come to conclusions require more scrutiny. And here, the methodology of arriving at the name Evan just doesn't hold up as well as I'd like. But that doesn't mean that
maybe it's Eva
doesn't hold up. Because here's the twist, friends. This isn't just coming from the logbook. Shortly after Christmas, the Fazbear Frights book series released its latest installment, Blackbird, and it contains what is to date the most moving story in this franchise.
Catch
the
up
Real
on my
Jake
books, man.
short story
Yes,
number 2
I'm the
tells
real
the
Jake.
tale of 9-year-old Jake, who's dying as a result of a tumor in his brain.
Aww.
With his mother prematurely passed away and his father overseas in the military, Jake is under constant care by the young Margie. But there's one other special person in Jake's life, a mysterious figure named Simon who speaks to him at night from a small cabinet in his room. Quote, the first night Simon had talked to Jake, Simon had made it clear he would be in the cabinet until Jake got well enough to walk to the cabinet. When you can do that, I'll be here waiting for you. End quote. And while it seems like Simon should be a sinister force, since, you know, this is a FNAF book after all, it's actually an expression of love. Margie had created this small doll named Simon with a walkie-talkie inside of him that allows Jake's father to speak to his son, distorting his voice to make him sound younger. Simon, every night, insists that Jake speak about what the real Jake is doing, the one who isn't
recording this video,
cancer, the one who is outside playing with his friends. All of this was intended to
give
Jake
playing
hope, with Margie
No?
updating the doll every few nights with food stains and scrapes on his knees to reflect the adventures that the real Jake has been having. It's a beautifully sad story with some legitimate surprises that I'm actually not going to spoil here. But the reason I bring it up is that, strangely, it is the only one of the 18 Fazbear Frights stories so far that has no explicit connection to FNAF. At all. Zero. Every other story thus far has mentioned a Fazbear pizzeria, or connected back to a familiar animatronic in some way. This one doesn't. Yes, it does have some lore connection to the ongoing Stitch Wraith storyline, but the lack of anything FNAF stands out like a sore thumb when every other story thus far has connected back in some way, which is why the name of Jake's father stands out so strongly. Jake's father is named Evan, which alone is interesting, but becomes much more noteworthy when you consider that he has a brother named Michael, his only living family. And not only that, this is how Michael is described in the book. Quote, he's a little different. He's intense about making money and he's really good at it. Just the way he is can make him seem like he's not human. So he's like a cyborg with bad programming, end quote. Two brothers, one named Michael who gets compared to a human-robot hybrid. Where have I heard that one before?
Father, it's me, Michael.
And that's just the surface level stuff, friends. Looking deeper, this is a story about a father communicating with his son via walkie-talkie, just like we see in Sister Location. Heck, you see him communicating through the walkie-talkie that is in a plushie. In the real Jake, it's Simon the doll with a walkie-talkie inside of him. In the games, it's psychic friend Fredbear with a walkie-talkie. Both children suffer from a severe head wound, Jake with his brain tumor and crying child with the bite of 83. In the story, Jake goes on to possess the Simon doll, only for him to then pass on to the Stitch Wraith, sharing that endoskeleton with another soul named Andrew.
So it is Jake.
Could it be that our crying child dies in the hospital and goes on to possess psychic friend Fredbear, which then somehow gets him passed into the Golden Freddy suit, where he then shares it with another soul named Cassidy? And all of this is happening in a story that has no connection to FNAF, but very clearly has a connection to FNAF. I'm just saying that the absence makes it all the more conspicuous. In short, I'm not convinced
very
that the
subliminal.
FNAF survival logbook is solved or anything like that. Right now, I'm just not sure the methodology for arriving at a final name is really as solid as I'd like it to be to enter my
Now I
personal
really want it to be
headcanon.
Jake.
But strangely enough, the name Evan feels like we're onto something. It has some very compelling evidence to support it from the real Jake story. So at this point, I want to hear from you. Let me know. Are you sold on the crying child being Evan alongside his older brother Mike? Or is this yet another example of Scott trying to bury the lead a bit and confuse us by using the same name a bunch of times, shoving Michael in a bunch of places where he doesn't belong? All I know is that I can't wait for the next book coming out in March. At this point, forget Security Breach. It's all about
there's
those sick
another
book
one
drops,
coming
my
out.
friends. 'Cause
There's
let's
so
be honest
many
with
books.
ourselves. At this point, uncovering the lore of FNAF requires more reading than your typical JRPG. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Thanks for
Ruining your
watching.
childhood
And
since
hey, if you missed our
2011.
first quest to
I love
solve
it.
the security logbook, that video is on screen right now. It properly conveys
I don't
my
know.
frustration with
Actually,
the
in 5
series. And if you're
seconds.
interested in joining us on our ongoing quest to solve all the mysteries of FNAF, make sure you bite that subscribe button. Your
I
frontal
will
lobe
not.
will thank you, because let me tell
'Cause
you, the
that's,
last time I told you I was stumped about a
not
puzzle in
edible.
the security logbook, less than a week later, Cassidy was solved. I wouldn't be surprised if something similar happened this time. In the meantime, my friends, I'll see you all next week.
Ah, what a theory. I really hope that it's named Jake, to be honest. So once again, we went back to the security logbook, and there were some more things that I guess we haven't touched on. Kind of line up the name, possibly, of this crying child. So obviously there's text of Cassidy talking with someone. Okay, and all I can think about is it's the other person possessing Golden Freddy. So on the 8-bit Foxy creation page, they lined up the alphabet and then they lined up the numbers of the tallies that were hidden on every page, including the numbers that were on the book that Foxy was reading. But that just doesn't perfectly add up. It's just a little far-fetched. But something just didn't line up with that N, you know? You can't just shove that in there. It doesn't work. But in the Fazbear Frights story, the one that apparently doesn't add up with any of the actual Five Nights at Freddy's story, the fact that Jake was talking to a doll with a walkie in it, just kind of like how, you know, Fredbear, little Fredbear plushie, was talking to the crying child. Also, the tumor in his head, just like the crying child with the frontal lobe bitten off. Just the fact that the name of his dad was Evan, and that also that his brother was named Michael, who was described as a robotic, like, humanoid thing? What? Dude, that's Michael Afton. I don't know. That was a pretty good theory all in all. It took a while to get to it, but man, we're on to something. That was another Five Nights at Freddy's game theory. This one was titled, Did Reddit Just Solve FNAF? I don't know, maybe. Solving FNAF, meaning did we solve the actual identity of the crying child? We don't know. But I'm telling you, when it gets revealed, it's going to be nuts. So everything will be linked in the description down below so you can check everything out for yourself, okay? Go check out the Game Theories channel. If you haven't subscribed, I suggest you do, because, man, they do a lot of cool stuff. A lot of theories that end up being true, but some may not. It's just good food for thought. Like it if you enjoyed, subscribe to some more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. So bye!